modern circus began in 1770 by a British sergeant major named Philip Astley. Astley hired clowns, musicians, and others to perform while he demonstrated his own riding skills. In 1793, the first American circus was brought to Philadelphia by a man named John Bill Ricketts. It was aimed at high society, and George Washington even attended a performance in April of 1793. From Philadelphia, the show then moved to New York, and then in November of 1793 to South Carolina to follow the warmer weather. From South Carolina, it traveled to Virginia and Maryland, thus beginning the traveling circus tradition. P.T. Barnum's Circus began in 1871. It was an exhibition of animal and human oddities which later became known as the Sideshow. In 1881, Barnum merged with Bailey of London Circuses, thus creating Barnum and Bailey. At the height of the American circus, there were 105 shows touring the country at the same time. Most of them had a fat lady, a giant, a midget, a three-legged boy, an armless wonder, and a thin man. P.T. Barnum found Charles Sherwood Stratton when he was only 5 years old. Stratton was 2 feet tall and weighed 15 pounds. Barnum made a deal with Stratton's parents to pay them $3 a week to put Charles on exhibition in his museum in New York City. Charles Stratton was given the nickname General Tom Thumb by Barnum. In the 1860s, he met Lavinia Warren, another small person employed by Barnum. In 1863, the two were married in a ceremony largely promoted by Barnum himself. On his honeymoon, Stratton and his bride were invited to the White House as guests of President Lincoln. Stratton is one of the few examples of performers who are able to achieve wealth and fame. However, he was exploited because of his size in a way that would be considered shameful by today's standards. Some of the performers signed their contracts of their own free will. However, many who were considered mentally retarded or very young did not. In this case, either they would not have a contract at all, or a family member signed their contracts for them. These people were also usually the victims of robbery by their own managers, like in the case of Joseph Merrick, aka the Elephant Man. Merrick was taken to Europe on a tour, but while there was robbed by his road manager and left to fend for himself. As time went on, the audiences became bored with the acts they considered to be too normal, such as the albinos. These acts were forced to learn new and often dangerous tricks, like swallowing swords or breathing fire, in order to entertain the audience. Beginning in the mid-1950s, with the discovery of genetics, people began to realize that the human deformities they were paying to see at the circus were actual disabilities, and they became afraid of these disabilities as they saw them as a danger to human evolution. According to Robert Bogdan of Syracuse University, the idea of a freak was socially constructed because many of the performers saw themselves as actors who would play a role on the stage but were actually average people off the stage. In the true showbiz style, their managers would dress them a certain way to make them appear more abnormal looking. For example, the giant was usually given platform shoes and a tall hat to wear, and the fat lady would be given clothes almost the size of a baby's. While freak shows used to be commonplace in American culture during the 19th and 20th centuries, they are now taboo. Staring at people with disabilities, whether you are in public or at one of the few slideshows left, is highly frowned upon and seen as politically incorrect today. Douglas Bicken of Syracuse University says that today's freak shows are considered the pornography of disability. However, there is one show that is attempting to embrace the idea of a freak show today. 999 Eyes has defined a freak as a human oddity that has chosen to share, celebrate, and exploit his or her own genetic anomaly through performance. Their goal is to reclaim the term freak without the negative connotations and have an audience that appreciates their bodies and their arts instead of gawking at them.
We're the world's only freak show. Ladies and gentlemen, there is nothing wrong with any of our performers. I repeat, nothing. Rather, they are nature's art in its finest form. 9 Eyes was formed, the world was ready to see freaks again. They were tired of being told that they weren't allowed to look at people who were different, that people who were different should be institutionalized, that the strangeness should be feared. People were ready to embrace the bizarre as beautiful. They were ready to walk down the street and feel safe and comfortable walking up to people who were differently abled and saying, "Hey, what's it like to be like that? Wow, that's really cool. You must be able to fit in really small places."
999 Eyes began touring in June of 2008. Their last gig was in November of 2008. The fact that the only freak show today lasted mere months suggests to me that society is not ready to embrace the culture of a freak show just yet.